Welcome to the ADTI Media SkyPanel digital display system. This step-by-step video will take you through a complete installation of the Concentrated Power series. You'll learn how to assemble and install a custom display using our revolutionary modular display system. Let's get started. First, it's important to note that specific hardware and components included with your sign may vary slightly depending on its size and power requirements. Please see your installation guide for diagrams and technical support information if you need additional details on the equipment or procedures covered in this video. SkyPanel displays can be mounted on almost any surface type, but there are a few things to keep in mind for the best results. Make sure the surface is flat. In this example, we're installing to a square tube frame commonly used on commercial sign projects. If you're installing to a wall or other surface, ensure that you have a flat, even surface. A piece of sheet metal can be attached before mounting to ensure a flat surface to mount the structural frames to. Please consult your printed manual and check local building codes for specific attachment requirements. Whichever way you decide to mount the structural frames, make sure it's capable of supporting the weight of the sign, approximately 7 pounds per square foot. Mounting hardware for the frame panels is not included, but can be purchased at your local hardware store and will vary depending on your surface type. For a tube frame installation, we recommend attaching the structural frames using 3/4 inch or longer self-tapping screws. Your sign package will arrive on one or more pallets. Remove the pallet wrap and binding and locate the components for your sign. SkyPanel LED modules. Wiring harnesses with extender boxes. Power enclosure. Structural frames, and assembly hardware. Each frame panel is designed for the attachment of 10 SkyPanel LED modules in a 2x5 configuration. Mounting holes are pre-drilled throughout the panel to provide multiple options for attachment. Choose the attachment points that are most stable and secure for your mounting surface. For wall installations, make sure you're attaching to a stud using multiple attachment points. SkyPanel structural frames are designed with dovetailed joints to provide proper spacing between frames. Attach the first structural frame in the furthest left position of the sign. Check to make sure the first panel is in the proper location and level before proceeding. We recommend securing each panel in at least 9 attachment locations. From there, align each additional frame panel so that the dovetailed receivers connect properly with the dovetailed joints of the previous frame panel. If your finished sign requires a different configuration than the standard 2x5 SkyPanel LED module layout, one or more of the frame panels can be cut to adjust the number of rows and/or columns. For best results, we recommend using a professional-grade panel saw with a fresh, sharp blade designed for smooth cutting of plastic materials. Cut just to the outside of a solid frame support structure for a clean, finished edge. You can also use the panel saw to trim any dovetail connectors that would remain unused and visible on the outside edges of your finished frame. Extender boxes supply power and data to the LED panels you'll be installing on each frame. There's one extender box needed for each structural frame that supports up to 10 modules per frame. Each extender box is supplied with the appropriate wiring harness attached. Your wiring harness may differ in color from those shown here, but the installation procedure is the same. Start by mounting the extender box to the frame. Attach the extender box using the supplied mounting screws in the space provided in the frame panel. See your installation guide for the ideal mounting location of the extender box based on your assigned configuration. Locate the power and data connections running from the extender box. These cables will connect to the external power enclosure. For easy connection, run these cables toward the bottom of the frame to a convenient exit location, securing them in place with the guide hooks molded into the frame. You can also use cable ties and cable clamps to help guide the cable. It's important to make sure your cable is run as flush as possible with the frame to avoid any cable bulges that might obstruct attachment of your LED modules. Your extender box also has up to 10 module connectors attached to the box. These cables are labeled 1 through 10 and will be routed to the individual LED module locations. See your installation guide for the proper sequence of these cables. For most signs, your cable numbering will look like this. Route the numbered outgoing power and data cables to the proper location for their corresponding LED module. It may help to group cables 1 through 5 to run toward the top of the display and group 6 through 10 to run toward the bottom of the display. Use clamps and zip ties to secure the cables to the frame. Coil any extra cable at the connection end. The routing path should keep the cables tight but not stressed. Please note, extender boxes are pre-wired for 10 SkyPanel LED modules. If your sign configuration requires fewer than 10 modules on a frame panel, please refer to your printed manual for details on how to remove unused wiring from the extender box. Each SkyPanel LED module is attached with a single cable connector that carries both power and data. SkyPanel modules are secured to the frame panel at 6 locations accessible from the front face with a counterclockwise turn of a 5/32 inch hex wrench. To connect the data and power cable, plug the connector into the mated socket on the back of the SkyPanel module. Proper connection is confirmed audibly with a click and visually when the red indicator on the side is fully pushed into the connector. Set the SkyPanel module in position on the frame and use the hex wrench through the front access locations to turn each of the 6 latches 1/4 turn counterclockwise. This will lock the panel securely to the frame. Repeat this procedure for each SkyPanel LED module on your frame. Mount the external power and control enclosure at your desired location up to 100 feet away from the display. Choose a location that will give you convenient access and that will stay dry and safe for electrical connections. Follow your local building and electrical codes to determine a proper mounting location. The size and specific mounting procedures vary depending on the size and type of enclosure and requirements for the sign. The end user is responsible for supplying power to the enclosure and for ensuring the power supply is in full compliance with all applicable building and electrical code requirements. Make sure that all power to the power and control enclosure is turned off at the source before proceeding. Open the door to the power enclosure and remove the finger safe to access the rear wiring terminals. This will require the temporary disconnection of some wires attached to the front-mounted circuit boards. Label these wires and/or take a photo before removing them to ensure proper replacement later. Strip the sheathing from the incoming AC source power wires, allowing enough wire to reach the terminals. Route the wires through the provided weatherproof grommet and connect them to the incoming power terminals. Standard wiring practices apply. Strip the sheathing from the outgoing DC power wires, allowing enough wire to reach the terminals. Route these wires along with the outgoing data cables through the provided weatherproof grommet and connect them to the outgoing power terminals. The data cables will be connected later. Standard wiring practices apply. Before proceeding, take a moment to check the incoming power for proper voltage. With all outgoing DC breakers turned off, turn on the incoming power. Connect a power meter to the incoming power terminals and verify incoming voltage matches the requirements for your sign. See your instruction manual for your specific voltage requirements. Turn off the source power again before proceeding. Reattach the finger safe and reconnect the wires that were temporarily removed earlier. The data cables are numbered and correspond to a numbered connector on the controller board. Attach each cable to its matching connector. Turn on the source power. Inside the power enclosure, turn on all DC breakers. The sign will cycle through an initial power-up display. Close the power enclosure and secure the latches. The sign display is programmed via the sign control application through a network-attached computer. To communicate with your sign controller, open the power enclosure and connect an Ethernet cable between your computer and the open Ethernet port located on the control board. Once connected to your sign controller, you'll need to configure your network and log into the sign control software. If using a Windows computer, begin by clicking the search bar and entering View Network Connections. This will open a window that displays all available wired and wireless network connections, including the local area network just created by connecting to the sign controller. Right-click the local area network icon and select Properties from the list. In the Properties list, double-click Internet Protocol version 4. In the new window that opens, select Use the following IP address. For the IP address, enter 192, 168, and 0 for the first 3 numbers, and any number other than 211 for the 4th number. For our example, we'll use 100. For the subnet mask, just click in the box and it will automatically populate. Click OK to complete the IPv4 settings. Click OK again to complete the local area network setup. You can now use any web browser application to access the sign control software. Open the browser and enter the following address: 192.168.0.211:8080. When the software launches, you'll be prompted to enter a password. The default is simply password with all lowercase letters. You can change that within the application if you choose. Once logged in, you'll want to configure the module dimensions based on your display size. To do this, click Status Config and then select Layout from the options at the left. Click the button labeled Change Hardware Configuration. The Auto Layout tab is selected by default, and for most applications, you'll be able to locate the proper dimensions from the preset list. Simply select the desired preset and click the arrow to add the correct module configuration. For custom applications, you can configure the sign dimensions by selecting the Manual Layout tab. Consult with your installation guide for the correct settings. Click OK when finished with your setup. You'll be asked to confirm your hardware configuration change. Click Yes to continue. Next, you'll need to configure the screen resolution and network settings. To do this, click General from the options at the left. The screen resolution can be changed in the sign geometry settings. The module dimensions setting contains a list of available pixel pitch options to match the modules of your sign. For our example, we'll select the 16mm pitch option. When you change the module dimensions, the pixel dimensions shown at the right will automatically update to show the screen resolution of your sign for content creation. Scroll down to the next section for network settings. The current sign controller IP address and address type are shown. Click Modify to change the settings. The options available here allow you to select either a static or dynamic IP address, and to specify IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS settings. The default settings here are generally good for a single sign, but you may wish to modify them to add additional signs to your existing network or to configure it with any wireless devices that you might be using. Click OK to complete the setup. Any modification to the network settings will not take effect until you reboot the sign controller. Click the Reboot button if you need to do this. The next step is to configure your HDMI input settings. Select Display from the options at the left. Go to the Configuration tab in the Content section and make sure HDMI is selected as your input. Then click the Apply button. In the HDMI configuration section, make sure Automatic is selected, then click the Apply button. If you're using a 16mm or 20mm pixel pitch display, also make sure Sub-Pixel Rendering is enabled in the Image Processing section. Your sign also has some automatic dimming options for adjusting sign intensity or brightness. Select Dimming from the options at the left. Several dimming modes are available. The first option is Ambient, which utilizes an ambient light sensor to automatically determine the correct brightness level based on current environmental conditions. You can also choose Time of Day Geo, which uses your GPS coordinates to determine optimal brightness level based on the time of day and sunrise/sunset times for your specific location. You can also choose to make your settings manually. For the Time of Day Geo option, scroll down to the Settings area and select the Configuration tab. Enter your GPS coordinates for longitude and latitude, then click the Apply button. For manual settings, scroll down to the Manual section and enter a dimming value of 0 to 100. Your display is not complete without content, so let's take a quick look at how to do that. Select Sky Show in the menu bar. Scroll down to the Slide Decks section and click Add. This will add a new slide deck, which is essentially a set of instructions for a content display program or playlist. Give your slide deck a descriptive name. For our example, we'll just call it New. You have many options for scheduling the display of your slide deck, including start and end dates, start and end times of day, and selection of which days of the week it will be displayed. The default setting is for the slide deck to display continuously on all days of the week. You'll simply need to enter an end date anytime in the future. Click the OK button when finished. Your slide deck is now ready for the addition of content, either still images or video. Scroll down to the Slide Deck Configuration section and make sure the new slide deck is selected. Under Slides, click the Add button, then click Browse. Browse to the folder where your desired content is stored and select the files to add. Click Open. The files will then be uploaded to your sign. Once uploaded, your content files appear as slides in the list. The Enabled checkbox allows you to choose whether each slide in your list is displayed or hidden during playback. Clicking the checkbox to the left of one or more slides, then clicking the Delete button removes them from the slide deck. You can also change the order in which your slides are displayed by selecting a slide and using the Move Up and Move Down buttons to reposition it in the list. When you've finished adding slides to your slide deck, scroll up to the Slide Decks section and click the Enabled checkbox for the new slide deck. Your new content should now be displayed on your sign. The information above shows the active slide deck and the slide currently being displayed. If you need to make any adjustments to the content display size, scroll up to the Sky Show Content Scaling section, select Scale to this size, and enter your sign dimensions for width and height. These are the same dimensions set in the previous screen for content size, and shown as sign dimensions at the left. When programming is complete, disconnect your computer and make sure the power enclosure door is closed and securely latched. With an image now displayed on your sign, any modules that may have been accidentally connected out of sequence will be obvious, appearing as a pair of modules that have the wrong part of the image in them. This is a very simple correction to make. Just remove and disconnect the out-of-sequence modules. Then reroute the connectors on the wiring harness to the proper location. Finally, reconnect the modules and secure them to the frame. The image should now appear correctly in the display. This concludes our video guide. Please consult your printed manual for additional setup information or contact your ADTI Media representative directly for help. Thank you for watching.